So I saw the short you did a while back called Aqua, which had some of the elements of that are flow. Had you always intended to kind of expand that and maybe, take advantage of the experience and the new technology and tools to make flow?
No, I never. It wasn't like I always planned it, but yeah, I made a bunch of short films, and that one, even though maybe technically it's not the best one I've made, but something about the story kind of resonated with me, and after finishing my first feature, Away, I was trying to think of what to do next, and had to like come up with an answer quickly because there was like an interest from producers. And I thought, yeah, I should maybe revisit the story I'd already started because it also was a good fit for a theme I wanted to explore because I wanted to tell my story of kind of learning how to work together with a team because it's the first time I've done it with Flow. And I thought a cat would be like the perfect character to convey this because they're very independent and yeah, so these things kind of click together. But stylistically, I think these films are quite different because Aqua, the short film, is done in these short cuts, very dynamic, very kind of fast paced, and kind of, yeah, with these close ups. And with Flow, I wanted to use a technique which I started exploring later with when I started doing 3D animation. And I switched to 3D because I wanted to explore using telling stories using the camera, which is quite difficult to do in hand-drawn animation, and using these long shots and kind of creating this immersive feeling, which can also be dynamic at times. But I also want to have this kind of more contemplative uh, pace as well, and to have this dynamic range with the fast action scenes, but also being kind of, yeah, taking allowing myself to slow down a little bit.
Hmm. You take on a lot of roles in this film. In your previous films, your shorts, did you literally do everything with no one else at all? And this one, you kind of did a lot yourself, but you still had other people doing different things.
Yeah, well, I know that sometimes when a filmmaker has like an independent success, they end up making something very big very quickly, and I feel like uh, that could be overwhelming. That's you might lose your voice that way. Maybe sometimes it works, but I didn't want to do it like so suddenly, and I wanted to do this transition more gradually, where with each of the films I'm trying to delegate a little bit more, but I don't want to change my way of working completely. And I'm used to like designing all the shots, and I did the music uh, in a way, and some of these things are just easier for me to do myself rather than trying to explain it to someone else. Especially something like the music, which is so subjective. If you like explain something melancholic to someone, they might have a completely different idea of what it means. And but I wanted to kind of do them because I also enjoy doing all these different things. I like that I don't do the same thing all the time. One day I'm doing script writing, and then I'm doing music, and then I'm doing design. So it's very doesn't get boring for me. But with the next one, I want to try and delegate a little bit more because now I've had the experience of working with the team, and I learned so much as well. I think I can articulate myself a little bit better and understand what I want better. Uh, but yeah, but I really enjoy all these different things.
Well, it's ironic because the movie itself is kind of an analogy of different animals, different people from different backgrounds working together. So it's kind of a good analogy for the movie for you to work with a team on it.
Yeah, this time it was conscious. I wanted to do that from the get-go. I think even if people don't know the backstory of how this film was made and how it is a personal story to me, I think they can sense that it's not just like another job for us. It's we're trying to like it's not just me. I think everyone else is kind of really invested in making this film, and I think it's really important to tell stories like that. I am interested in kind of the specificity of storytelling. I think if you try to make like a film for everyone, you might end up like me making something quite broad or generic. But if you tell your personal story and about your own experiences, like it could, I think it can actually reach a bigger audience because I think people want to see like something that is, uh, yeah, personal, that where you kind of almost feel ashamed of sharing some things, where it's kind of you have to uh, like it's almost like a therapy for me, where I'm trying to like go through some things and making this film can I can learn something about myself, and I think people also want to see how filmmakers do that. I think it's very interesting.
I mean, what's your process like? I mean, did you actually write a full script? I mean, obviously, it's not there's no dialogue, but are you writing a full script of every scene before you even start designing, or is it kind of like are you kind of storyboarding and writing and kind of come up with ideas like that in the process of like coming up with the story?
Yeah, there is a script, and I write. My way of writing is I kind of do it in a very structured way. I start with like a very brief synopsis, and then I expand it into like an outline. And I have to know the ending. I have to know like all the beats. But there is a script which, in this case, is like maybe half the length of a typical script because there's no dialogue, so the text is more dense. With dialogue, you have a lot more white space on the page. Um, yeah, some things are very similar to the final film, but even after finishing the scripts, some things kept evolving. Some scenes were added, some were not even visualized. I realized that maybe they work on the script, but when I try to actually visualize them, they don't work. And I don't use storyboards. I don't draw the storyboards like hand drawn. I do them instead. I made the animatic in 3D because I want to use the camera in kind of this very loose, organic way where it kind of follows the characters very closely, and that is really hard to draw. And even though we had like more resources than I had before, I could hire storyboard artists. I didn't do that because I didn't want to change my way of working too much, but I also like uh, have to do it because it's like another draft of the script where I start making the animatic chronologically from the first scene, and because I know the ending and I know the beats, this gives me the freedom to actually explore some things, and I always know that I can eventually find my way back to the path, but I can try different ideas and even after finishing the script, I never read it, and no one really has read it.
Hmm.
It was for me to kind of discovered the story, and it was for getting it was necessary for the funding. But in production, no one read the script. Everyone would just use the animatic. And even while I was making the animatic, I didn't read the script. I just made it based on my memory of it. And I think this also allowed me to be more loose and have this freedom to explore things because if like different people write the script and do the story and visualize it, I think they have more pressure to kind of follow the path, and that can feel kind of constrained. I think, and you're just following the script, but I think it's important, especially in animation where everything is constructed, to create that feeling that actually it feels kind of unpredictable. It feels kind of like we are discovering these things instead of constructing them.
Yeah, the movie has a very painted look, but as you mentioned, it has a 3D and you're using the computer to create the 3D, the shots and stuff like that. I mean, are you painting right into the computer with on a tablet or some kind of things like that, or what are you using to kind of like create that look?
Uh, it's all we're not like actually painting them, but we have these brush strokes on all the textures to kind of make it feel more graphic, and we're not like putting every tiny detail in the frame. I wanted to have a more abstract, stylized look, um, because then we can. It's another tool we use to kind of use the detail only where it's necessary, and maybe some elements in the background or something that's not important is less detailed, and it's almost like focus, which allows us to kind of help guide the audience where they should look at. And it's about finding the balance. It should feel kind of really immersive and richly detailed, but like but also like being stylized. And so I tried to have maybe a little bit more detail in the backgrounds,
Hmm.
so you can sense all the grass and the water. It should feel kind of immersive. You should feel all these textures. But the characters I wanted to like be maybe a little bit more abstract and more stylized, so we can more expressive with the designs. I think if you like add too much detail to the characters, you might approach this uncanny valley feeling where it's somewhat cold and sterile feeling. And if you make it more abstract, I think it can feel more, yeah, expressive. And it's like this is used in classic animation as well, where you see the backgrounds which are painted with oil paints or watercolors, and there's a lot more detail than the characters, which can be just flat colors. And I think the audience can kind of suspend their disbelief and uh, accept that these multiple styles happen at the same time. So it's really intentional that it looks like that.
Mm. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the backgrounds because I thought the locations and locales were really, really amazing. And it's very like it's not very, it's specific in one point, but it's like also like at one point it seems like it's Southeast Asia. There's other parts it seems like Holland or Italy. There's all these different places. I mean, like how did you actually like find real like photos of real places? Did you want to incorporate into it, or did you want to just kind of like be able to like try different things as a background?
Well, yeah, it's not really like any specific place, but we combine the influences from multiple places. So we're not constrained by real locations. We can make whatever we want. And they're all there for a reason to help us understand these characters, especially the cat. So it's not just like some decoration in the background. It's all there to challenge the characters and to have like obstacles in their way, or to kind of help understand their mood and feeling. And I wanted this environment to feel kind of timeless, so we don't see any modern day technology. We don't see like glass skyscrapers. We don't see cell phones. So it could be set in any time, and hopefully it will feel fresh in many years as well. But yeah, it's uh, we don't see humans, but we see like some traces of things they left behind, and through these backgrounds, I wanted like there are some multiple clues you can discover. Maybe you'll not catch everything on the first watch, uh, which is totally fine because you should focus on the characters. But like for people who revisit this film, they might get something else on the second watch.
Which is what I did, and I did. So you're right, it worked. And I'll probably give it a third watch as well, like down the road for sure. Like, so because all your characters are animals, I mean, you and the animators, I mean, you studying the animals to kind of know their movements and how to. I mean, cats, dogs, they're easy to find and see, but like lemurs and the large, is that a toppy? The large.
Capybara?
Was that what it was? Okay, I was trying to figure out what it was.
Capybara.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Did you like go to zoos and film a bit and study them for their movements, things like that with your animators?
Yeah, so I've had cats and dogs growing up, so I knew them quite well. I didn't like need to study them too much, but I'm kind of doing like the brush, like the broad strokes of the story, and when the animators are actually like uh, adding the fine details of the movement and the behavior, they would look at references for even the smallest parts where the cat is just turning its head or has some like its ear is twitching. They look at, at real life examples, and luckily there's like an endless library of cat videos and dog videos which we could like study and there's we went to the zoo and filmed the capybara and the birds and the lemurs. So we're kind of studying nature, but we're not copying it. We're kind of interpreting it because we're telling a story. It's not a documentary, and but it was important that also that the voices feel kind of rounded and real. So we're not using like real human voices. We recorded real animals and went to the zoo to do that, and because I think the story feels more engaging that way when these animals are not behaving like people, where they're like behaving like animals, and because then it feels like we're experiencing it from this cat's point of view, and everything seems so much more bigger and more scary, and we feel like more engaged because I think like if something bad happens in a film to a cat, I think it hits you much stronger than if you would see it from happening to a human. But it's also more emotional and also more funny. We didn't want to like, and we didn't feel like exaggerating the behavior of the animals because I think they're so funny enough. If you make them like humans, I think you lose that. So we tried to like maintain the real behavior.
I love how you're setting up my next question, like, because I was going to ask about the recording the animals, because I love the sound of the film. The look of the film is amazing, it's beautiful, but also the sound of the film. You watch it and you hear the rain and you hear all the different like small nuances of the animals. So you actually recorded animals. You found cat and just recorded a lot of sounds, and that you were able to pick from when you were putting together the soundtrack for the film.
Yeah. So sometimes this film is described as being silent, but of course it's not. Maybe the word dialogue free is more appropriate, but the sound and the music is maybe even more important role than most films because they have to kind of tell the story and we have this rich soundscape um, and I wanted to have like long scenes without music where you just hear the sounds to create that immersive feeling. Especially in animation, this is quite rare, at least in the West. In like the bigger studio films, they tend to like put music over every moment and always tell you exactly how to feel. In some Japanese films or different kinds of films, they allow they trust the audience enough to follow the story, and even like for a film like this, which works for families, it was important that we trust the audience to like trust their intelligence that they're gonna like follow it, and it was fun for a sound designer also because well, fun but also quite complicated and a lot of work because he really did have a lot of work and yeah, we recorded cats and dogs and for all these animals are real voices that we actually of the real animals, but the capybara is the only example where we had to be more creative because capybaras that don't really speak in real life, and so our sound designer would try to record it, but it's very silent, and finally they would tickle the capybara. It made such a strange sound. It didn't really fit this character. It sounded very anxious and kind of high pitched, and we needed a more kind of peaceful, deeper voice. And after a lot of searching, we've settled on a baby camel that's actually voicing the capybara. So
All right.
this is an example where in cinema, if you would actually like copy real life one to one, it would feel unbelievable. It would take you out of the story. But if you actually do like be more expressive and take some artistic liberties, it can feel more real. So it's about like knowing when to do that and when not to do that.
Yeah, I've been learning a lot today talking to you, but I never knew that capybaras were ticklish. I guess that's a new thing, a new
Well,
fact.
I guess if you like tickle anyone, they'll respond. So
Yeah. But what I love about this movie that like you say, a lot of people can watch this movie, different ages, different backgrounds, and they'll get something out different out of it. They could just see it as a simple fantasy movie about animals. They could see like the deeper layers, which definitely caught on second viewing. I mean, what would you like people to get out of it? I mean, do you make this because to allow them to kind of make their own decision, or did you have a very specific message you wanted to include in this storytelling?
Yeah, there is like a meaning for me. Maybe I would like allow the audience to see it for themselves before like telling it.
Sure.
But yeah, I wanted to kind of show how this cat starts out being very independent, but then has to learn how to trust others and how to work together. But I didn't want to have like that simple message of working together is good and being independent is bad,
Hmm.
because I think life isn't like that, and that's not my belief. I wanted to show how there's this dog as well, which is on like an opposite journey as the cat, who starts out being very trustful and ends up being more independent. So the audience can kind of see that maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle between these two extremes, and there's yeah, it's I think yeah, it's great that like I've been able to travel with this film all over the world, and people seem to really respond to it and understand it, and we don't need to translate it. And um, I think that's because of the lack of dialogue, but also because it is something quite universal. These feelings and these emotions, and um, I think it would be cool for just for a younger person to see it now and maybe watch it again as they grow older and maybe discover some new things as well. So yeah, I just tried to make a film that I would like. That I wasn't thinking about like making a film for children or making a film for adults. I just like yeah, it's kind of I think that it can be work for both, and that's also quite rare. Like usually these things are very kind of when you're pitching a film, you're always asked like how to compare to something that's already been done,
Hmm.
and it's quite complicated to compare this to something because I think it's quite unique, which was what excited me about the film, but it was quite difficult to pitch it.
One thing I thought about, which I'm not sure anyone else has, is that this movie you could show it at an assisted living facility for older, 80, 90s who maybe I might have dementia even like, and they could watch the movie and still get some kind of like stimulus with it, which I think is amazing also, which I guess hopefully someone will try it.
Yeah, it's very like sensual, like you have feel. We wanted to like create that feeling like you can touch the water, you can feel the wind, and like it's quite engaging. Like I think it's also because it's kind of telling it through this cinematic language. It like we wanted like to like you to be really immersed in this world. Like we're very close to the cat. We're not just observing it from a distance. So uh, yeah, it's like also I think because like the camera moves quite a lot, it really draws you in like almost like a hypnotic way. And so the time I feel like it passes pretty quickly watching a film like this, uh, and it could like stimulate some like feelings for different people.
Hmm. Well, listen, it's nice meeting you. It's a pleasure talking to you. I love your film. I can't wait to see it a third time after talking to you. I'm seeing this. I'm going progressively bigger screens with each viewing. So, so I don't know if it'll ever be an IMAX, but I will just keep watching until it gets in the biggest screen possible. Then,
Yeah,
so
it's
because
been shown in some IMAX cinemas. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there, but yeah, it's like a film like this. It kind of demands your attention. Like there are some like series, like TV shows where you can just put them on the background and listen to the story, and you can understand everything.
yeah.
But if you watch it on like a bigger screen, like every filmmaker will say that they prefer, like this is what they prefer. But I think in a film like this, it's like totally changes the experience because you really have to pay attention. But if you do, I think you are kind of rewarded by something that, yeah, you can't really achieve on a smaller screen.